Good afternoon, everyone. I think my presentation is going to be shortened a little bit by that excellent introduction that Ryan just presented to us. Today I'd like to talk to you about Osisko Metals, the first venture into base metal space of the Osisko Group. So what we're looking to do is to apply that same aggressive approach at creating value in the gold sector to the base metal sector. After what you just saw today, you can see why we have an emphasis on zinc. What we did starting in January is we consolidated the Bathurst mining camp. A lot of the ground had fallen, became open. Some key claims opened up in January. We started staking, and that's a portfolio I want to talk to you about today. We're greater than 50,000 hectares. We're probably getting closer to 55,000 hectares. In the third largest VMS camp in the world, so it's a very well-known district, and we'll talk about that. We launched recently a 50,000 meter drill program. We got 3 drill rigs turning on 2 different deposits. We have 4 that are targeted in the coming months, and our objective is to basically take some of these smaller deposits and create a multi-deposit concept that would feed a smaller concentrator, aiming at about 1,200 to 1,500 ton per day capacity if we can get that resource base. And there's a bit more to the story that we'll get into in a bit. So we also have the synergy of the Osisko Group. Since we started in June, we've raised over $40 million. We're well funded to develop what we're saying in the Bathurst camp, but we're also looking at the base metal space for other stranded assets that could benefit from our access to capital and technical expertise. So the Osisko story, I won't go through all of this in respect of time, but in the last 13 years, Osisko's created $9 billion in shareholder value over the last 13 years, building the first Canadian, or the largest Canadian gold mine, Malartic, becoming a royalty company 3 years ago that has a market cap of about 2.7 today. Osisko Mining, a couple of years ago, had a market cap of $10 to $12 million and is now at about $800 million market cap. So we were blessed by coming under the Osisko brand name, and since then our story has grown quite quickly. We think it's the best growth story in the zinc space in the explorers and developers. You can see our stock chart there. We started in June when we launched the company. We financed right up to that $70 period. We're now at 70 million shares, we have around 38 million cash on hand. In the first bought deal we did out of the gates, BlackRock, M&G, and JP Morgan participated. Another institutional shareholder that was involved in the predecessor company, Caisse de dépôt placement du Québec, is a cornerstone shareholder. They combined own 40% of the stock. Management insiders at 12%. Osisko Royalties and Mining own about 20%, for a total of about 74% of the stock held in long-term hands. Our warrants are at about 16.8. They're in the money, so that'll bring in another wave of capital over the next year or so. The board and management team, important to all investors. On the board, we have Bob and John Brzezinski. These are 2 of the founders of the Osisko Group that are actively involved in what we're doing. Bob, myself, and Paul, who's in the room here with us, have put together this story and been aggressively pursuing many ventures, be it in grassroots, what I'm going to talk about in Bathurst, and also what we're planning on doing next. Luc Lessard has built 11 mines. He's on his 12th as part of Falco, being the president. On the management side, there's Paul and myself. Killian Charles is a second-generation mining analyst who's helping us scour the base metal space, looking for those opportunities. And Robin and Gary are part of the Noranda team. I worked for Noranda for 20 years. Between these 2 gentlemen and a couple others on staff as consultants, we have about 100 years exploration experience in the Bathurst camp and twice that in base metal and exploration in general. I'm going to skip these slides because Ryan did such an excellent job of telling you why the zinc space is the place to be these days. And so what we started with, I'm just gonna, I guess I can't turn around because we're on both sides, but on the right hand of the slide you see Brunswick number 12. Brunswick was the largest underground zinc mine in the world for 50 years. That was the cornerstone of this camp. it produced 137 million tons at 12% combined lead zinc. And just to the south, if you follow the red line I call the Brunswick Horizon, the open pit number 6 produced about 13 million for a total of about 150 million tons at 12% combined, plus the byproducts of silver and a tad of gold. In red, you see several deposits that we've either acquired or staked. We're continuing to consolidate the camp. We'll be working on that towards the end of the year to complete what we want. But each of these assets, some of the deposits are around 1.5 million tons. We got to put ourselves back in the context. When I was exploring the Bathurst camp with some of these team members, Brunswick had a 10,500 ton per day mill, consumed 3.5 million tons a year. So a 1.5 million ton deposit didn't get much attraction to budgets. So these assets were left on the shelf. They were sparsely drilled at 200 to 400 meter spacing. We want to go back into these deposits and find out exactly what's there. If we can, the circle that's on the right hand of the slide represents a 25-kilometer trucking distance. If we can put 3 deposits and grow them to 3-4 million tons and get a minimum asset base of 10 million tons at 10% combined lead zinc, we can go towards an economic study. And the mill would be sized at about 1,200 to 1,500 tons a day. So we're trying to do that on the east side of the camp, but we're also trying to do it on the west side of the camp. Mount Franzac, 1.3 million tons. This was one of the deposits that was found in 1999 and saw a couple of years of exploration, but really was not fully explored. There's other deposits on that side of the camp that we're looking at getting our hands on. Same thing, Camelback was a discovery right at the end of when Noranda was exploring in this camp. Since then, there's been a wave of exploration by Xstrata and Glencore where the camp has been totally covered with new current geophysical airborne surveys. They've done exploration in the camp over a few-year period. The last phase was with Votorantim. They were halfway through. They reflew some of these belts with gravity surveys, very high-resolution gravity surveys, and for corporate reasons left the camp and didn't benefit from fully analyzing those surveys. So we want to take advantage of that. So the next couple of slides are just more details on the east and the west. You can see some of the grades. I'm just going to go back for a second. Right now we have 3 rigs turning, 2 on Gilmore South, which is down on the southern part of the Brunswick Belt, and 1 on Mount Franzac that is located in the west side of the camp. We have 3 rigs turning. Results are starting to come in. In the new year, we plan on doubling that rig count and continuing to explore throughout the camp. So on the data sets, we have these high-resolution geophysical surveys. It's unprecedented because gravity, airborne gravity, that was a tool that didn't exist before. It's recently, the first ever airborne gravity was flown in this camp in 2004. It was a so-so survey because it was the first one, but some of these belts, as I said, Votorantim reflew them with a helicopter. The reason I mention that is that when you're flying with a helicopter, you're flying lower, slower, and you get resolution in the order of 2 to 5 meter sample spacing. So we have mag data sets and gravity data sets with high resolution. Mira Geoscience runs a software package called GoCAD. We're putting these together and we're pulling out 3D mag inversions and 3D gravity inversions to reconcile with interpretation, making sure we've done the best job we can at interpreting before we hit it with an army of drills. We have access to a deep sea port where we can bring Cape-size ships. Northern New Brunswick has all the infrastructure needed that supported the Brunswick Belt. In Quebec, we have a portfolio of 12 targets, all open ground that was staked, 43,000 hectares of these. We have 1 million in flow through that we're going to advance them based on success. And in the respective time to keep this going, steady drill results are coming. We have 3 rigs on a 50,000 meter drill program. We'll double that in the new year. The objective short term is to convert the historical resources to 43-101 compliant resources, advance the GenX projects, and the biggest point is we're looking for our next step. Our next step will be something that's comparable to the Bathurst camp or better. Thank you very much.